Who better than me?
Welcome back to yet another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. 2 in 2 days. The work rate's just gonna keep improving. Just gonna keep building. Bigger the channel gets, so like and subscribe. Help me out. This was actually a very good and bad night of boxing. So I figured I'd actually do like a quick rundown of the entire thing. And I've even taken notes today, so I didn't want to be forgetting people's names and stuff like I did yesterday. That was real bad. So my apologies to everyone that I did speak about. I'm going to start with the DAZN card because that was the first one that was on. It's always the ones you don't expect that deliver the most, right? It was a brilliant card. I mean, there's not one bad match. There's not really a lot of bad words I could say about it. There is one, but I'll address it when I get to it. So I'm going to start with Cyrus Patterson against the Matchroom V-Show. Cyrus, very credible amateur, very capable, did quite a lot. I think he's had wins over Scott Fitzgerald and Anthony Fowler in the amateurs, so very capable, sort of came out of the cycle a bit later than them. Moving forward, it was a really good opponent he had in front of him, sort of stern test, wasn't just a simple knockover job, even though he was only 1-0 at the time. He did his thing, sometimes stayed in the pocket a bit too long, took some shots he didn't need to take, but he was fairly comfortable taking them. Don't think he really respected the power too much, but really good performance, and I look forward to seeing his next one, see what he does next. Right, second one. Now this is my fight of the night without question. I loved watching this fight. It was brutal. It was uncomfortable to watch at times. And it just showed what a real warrior is all about when it comes to, this boxing game. And that's Musa Gulam versus Moro Perrone. Now, Gulam put hands on this boy all night. It was uncomfortable, and the fact that he managed to stay on his feet as much as he did, like, Perrone deserves unlimited praise. The one thing that I'm absolutely disgusted by when it comes to that fight though. So Perrone has been taking damage pretty much from round 1. And he's firing back. He's not just taking damage for the sake of taking damage, but he's firing back, but he's getting visibly busted up. You can see it. Like the battle, the will, everything is sort of just draining from him. Like Gulam's virtually taking his soul in the ring, and his corner does nothing. Then in the 8th round, so the last round of the fight, with 40 seconds left to go on the clock, at this point he's not even taking punches, he's clinching onto Gulam to get a bit of a breather. His corner decides to throw in the towel. So you let that boy take 6 minutes of unnecessary punishment from round 6, only to then go and stop the fight 40 seconds before the fight was about to be over anyway, and take away any moral victory that this boy had. I mean, at that point he had never been stopped. That was one of his big things. He'd lost a couple fights, but he'd never been stopped. All of a sudden you've taken that away from him with 40 seconds left to go. Like, if that was me, that corner would never work with me again. Yeah, it's all good talking about fighters' health and protecting people that are too brave for themselves, and I get all of that. I totally understand it. But at the end of the day, if you was going to do that, you should have done that 2 rounds ago, when my face was getting punched in, bloodied and battered, and you can clearly see that this isn't a fight I'm going to win. But you take the one piece of solace I could have in this fight away from me with 40 seconds to go of the very last round of the fight. Disgusting, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. Put it in the comments, let me know. But I no, for me that's a violation. If I was him, I'd have put hands on them in the back when we got backstage. But that's just me. Moving on, Cristobal Lorente versus Anwar Salas, another great fight. Salas was undersized. He'd been competing in the weight class for a little while, but you can clearly see that he wasn't a natural at the weight. He was much smaller. He was slick. He was a mover. Like he had pretty good sort of head movement and everything. He was trying his best in there, but just the height and the reach of Lorente was a bit too much for him. And yeah, it was one of those. It was only going to go one way. You thought it was going to be over in the fourth round when he got knocked down for the second time, but somehow he got back up and managed to finish the fight on his feet after 8 rounds. And again, that's another fight where you could say, well, he was losing comprehensively, knocked down twice. His corner could have threw in the towel, but once it gets to the 8th round, okay, do your thing, innit? You seem alright. You're still swinging, so it is what it is. Just let him have his victory. That's his victory for the night. Go in the distance. Can't really deprive a guy of that. So yeah, that was another good fight. Definitely delivered. Like it. Next one, Kiko Martinez against Gyro Durant. Again, another good one. Another one that went the distance, but you thought it would have ended earlier. Martinez had him down. I think it was a couple times in that fight, from what I can remember. But he pretty much controlled it. He said he's looking to become a world champion once again. From what I can remember, I think he was IBF champion at bantamweight before. I don't think his chances of getting another title now are that likely, but I love to drive, and I know he's got the Silva Barrett rematch in December, so that should be a good one. He's definitely shaken off whatever ring rust he could have had moving on to that one, so that'll be a good scrap. I mean, I definitely think that Silva lost the first fight, so it'll almost be a little bit of redemption for him, but it would also be redemption for Kiko if he can actually get the victory. So we'll see where we get to. Mary Romero versus Amy Timner. Now, from even just watching the interview before the fight started that Timner did with DAZN, it was clear to see that she was petrified. Like, just listening to her talk, you could hear that there was absolutely no confidence in her voice. She sounded unsure of herself. The sentences were, there was labours of breaks in pretty much every couple of words, and that was not due to an intelligence thing. You could just tell that she was just nervous as hell. In the ring, she fought very nervous. The first 3-4 rounds, extremely nervous. In the 5th round, she looked like she actually came out of her shell a little bit, took the action to Mary Romero, and that was the first round I actually gave her just watching. I was actually traveling at the time, so I was kind of watching on my phone while I was driving to my destination. But from what I could kind of see of it, that was definitely the one time she had the most success for me. But then she just went back to getting bullied about from the 6th round, 7th round, and the 8th round. And her corner then did the right thing, pulling her out. Because even though the cut itself that she had wasn't tremendously bad, she wasn't going to win the fight. She didn't have the power to keep Mary Romero honest, and she was just sort of getting bullied around the ring, just taking damage unnecessarily. One round out of the 8 that was there, from what I saw. Maybe you could give her 2 if being generous, if someone else could maybe point out a 2nd round that she might have won. So yeah, it was just one-way traffic. It wasn't gonna go anywhere. Save her for another time, give her the experience, live to fight another day, and on you move. So yeah, I mean, I think that might have been a bit bad matchmaking. Like 5 fights in, 21 years old, no huge experience on like the world or even the European scene. Yeah, probably could have waited a couple extra fights, but I know some of the divisions aren't the deepest in terms of talent. So yeah, maybe sometimes you just got to take the opportunities when they come, when they're going to come a lot sooner than you really want them to. But I'm sure she'll get back on the horse, build up a bit more strength, a bit more experience, and I'm sure she'll be fine moving forward. Okay, last fight of the night was Kermit Raja against Dylan Sherratt. Now this fight, another really good fight, but this was definitely the pressure fighter versus the pure boxer. Now usually in these encounters, the pressure fighter is the guy that will win, simply because the pure boxer normally doesn't have the right kind of pop and the right kind of power to be able to keep that person off them enough to do their work and show that they're controlling rounds. In this case though, it was a little different, because even though Sherratt only had, I think it was like six knockouts in his 20 victories, I believe it was, but you could see that he actually did have the power. He did hold his feet as well, and he was causing Raja some problems in the fight. And to me, at the end of the 9th round, in the 10th round, when Sherratt was sort of coming back, and you could kind of see that Raja kind of had no answers. He was just taking shot after shot after shot. This is after being in the 7th round, just at the end of that, where he gave Sherratt a huge body punch right at the end, and Sherratt literally slumped onto his body as the bell was ringing, and that probably saved him from getting knocked out, because that was a pretty bad shot, and you could see he was visibly distressed by that one. But the 8th round, he moved about, tried to sort of just stick and move, just tried to get his win back, but he was popping the jab, he was hitting with counters. He definitely, to me, won that round, even though he was on the back foot for the entire amount of it. He didn't take much shots. The shots he did take, he blocked the majority of them. The others he rode quite well, circling the ring. 9th round was some of the same, but traded a bit more. But again, I think he won the 9th round as well. So in the 10th round, when it gets called time, and the referee then takes a look at the cut, and he's speaking to the ringside physician, talking about, look, is it a yes or is it a no? And I feel like Raja decided to end the fight, because he definitely could have continued. They're saying, can you see? He's like, no, but he could see quite clearly. The blood wasn't that bad. It wasn't gushing. It didn't fully trickle into his eye. The cut where it was, a lot of the blood was trickling towards the side, with like a little bit sort of going into the eye itself. So I think he pulled out. He just wanted to pull out. I think he probably thought, because I'm at home, I've been aggressing, I'm probably ahead on the cards, so I'll take this one. Now, when it came to the decision, it was a majority decision for Raja. I think it was like 96-95, 96-94, and then there was one 95-95 scorecard. I'm not going to say it was a robbery, because I know that word sort of does get thrown about quite a bit, and there's only a few robberies that I can conclusively say have happened this year in boxing. But what I will say is it was a gift decision. I don't particularly agree with it. I think Sherratt was actually winning the fight, and I think he should have got the decision. But because there were some rounds that were close, and it just depends, I guess, on how you scored it, you can kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. But I definitely believe it was a gift decision, and it was a decision he only got, number one, because he's in his hometown, and number two, because he's the most popular fighter in Spain, as they christened him, I think. So he's a huge money draw, ticket seller in the region. Obviously, you've got DAZN Spain cards as such. It makes sense. You want to keep that train rolling on. But if the rematch happens, I will definitely be one of the first tuning in to watch it, because it was a very good fight. And that's a DAZN card done. That was an amazing night of fights of boxing, and yeah, I was totally happy with it. Well done, Eddie Hearn. You put on a good one. This is what the Leeds card should have been, but whatever, we move on. Okay, now for the bad. Let's start with Mr. David Haye and Joe Fournier. Now, first of all, I want to make an apology to David because I did state on a previous video that his body was literally being held together by silly string, and I was just waiting to hear about the next thing to go snap, crackle and pop during this fight. And I bought the fight card, I can't lie. I never bought the previous two, but I bought this one just because there was some intrigue to me in some of the bouts. I just had to kind of see how this was going to transpire and unfold in real time. And even though I didn't necessarily buy into David's selling of the fight, the fact that I just wanted to see if something was going to break down made me have to watch it. Now, what I do want to say is, in the fight, he moved extremely well for a 40-year-old. He was fluid, he had good reflexes, movement was pretty good. You can see obviously he slowed down a little bit from what he used to be, but I mean, he wasn't necessarily fighting anyone of any real credibility or note. Hence why probably the body didn't break down, because he didn't have to push himself to any real limits against someone that is leagues below him when it comes to, pedigree in boxing. But David has a style, as you know, it's pretty much based on fast twitch muscles, fast reflexes and fast responses. So as you get older, those kind of styles don't particularly work out too well for you anymore. So when you haven't got the fundamentals underneath you, then it's a lot more of a difficult career. But he did well. But he promised people that he was gonna lay into Joe, teach him a lesson and beat him up. So he said he was gonna slowly cook him, take him into deep waters and then drown him. So I wasn't expecting him to end this in one round, with one big hand. But he pretty much popped out the jab all night. Some power jabs, some leading jabs, some distraction jabs as well. Didn't really throw anything else of note. And it was very much another masterful con job of the Haymaker, because that is your moniker and you didn't let one go. I don't particularly blame you, because if you can beat someone with one hand and have an easy night, why not? And I get that him and Joe are friends, which obviously is a reason why I'm assuming he wouldn't want to hurt him too badly, because someone with that kind of money is a good friend to have around, I suppose, especially if you end up in any kind of financial woes. Maybe it might help you out, who knows. I don't know the full strength of their relationship, and I don't care to know. But yeah, it wasn't really a good spectacle to watch as itself, but in terms of him and his movement and everything, I was impressed, and the body held up, so congrats. Calling out Tyson Fury afterwards, look, as much as I hate Tyson Fury and his antics, and I believe truly that he is well overrated by a lot of people, that's not something I want to see. David at 40 years old. Tyson's 32, 33, coming up to. Even though Tyson doesn't have the movement he used to have, he's still going to be a good 60, 65 pounds heavier than you. He'll decide to walk you down. He'll put pressure on you to the point you've got to do some kind of evasive maneuver, and I know what's going to happen next. Something's going to break down. If it broke down against Bellew, it will break down against Fury. So it's not something I want to see, but hey, if you manage to get it, I guess get your money in it. What's the I know that his record, what was the record before? Was it 26-4? 28-4? I know it was an official bout that got sanctioned, so he's now technically not ended his career on a loss, which I suppose maybe was something you kind of wanted all along, but we'll see what happens there. I didn't get to see the John O'Carroll fight, but I will watch it a little later on. So I've got to leave the analysis on that one out for the minute. But I did see Anderson Silva against T Ortiz. Now Anderson Silva, thing is, a lot of people don't realize Silva has been boxing. He was boxing long before he started doing MMA, so he naturally had those skills. And you can see just by his fluidity, his patience, his calmness, that he's just, if he had have stuck to boxing instead of MMA, he probably would have gone extremely far. But I guess for him at the time, MMA was quicker route to the money, especially coming from Brazil, where you don't get a lot of opportunities in boxing, but you do get a lot through the MMA system. But he's nice. Like, you can tell he's got good control of the ring. He's fluid, he's calm, he's relaxed, so he's able to ride shots. He's even able to take them if necessary, without really going down or tensing up. He doesn't panic. He is just literally one of the greatest combat fighters of all time. There's not really much more to say. And the way he landed that swift right hook, it was a tight, compact right hook on Ortiz's jaw, put him out straight away. Missed one over the top, but then came back with a temple shot and then another shot to the side of the face just to finish him off. Ortiz laid out one round cold. It was very impressive. That was definitely of the Triller card. That was definitely the most impressive fight or bout that I saw. Outside of the performances, there were some good performances. The Snoop Dogg and Marvin Gaye performance was, it was entertaining. It was quite creative the way he done it. It was, I can't really say much about that. But let's talk about the bad. So you got Evander Holyfield, 58, soon to be 59, in tremendous shape, by the way, but taking on 44-year-old Vitor Belfort. Obviously, is a very last-minute replacement, standing for Oscar De La Hoya. And I think Belfort was actually lucky that he had Evander and not De La Hoya, because I believe the De La Hoya fight was at a catch weight of 180 or 185. But Belfort was able to come into this match at like 205. So he definitely was able to come in a lot more naturally bigger, stronger than he would have had to be to suck himself down to make the weight for the De La Hoya fight. Now, obviously looking at the fight at the start of it, Holyfield, he looked a bit sort of laboured, but he was still quite spry and quite active, especially for someone of his age. But the moment where Vita sort of unloaded a couple shots on him, he took them on the gloves. He did his normal sort of defensive. He didn't do the cross guard. I was expecting that one, but that one didn't come out. But then the moment I saw him swing for Belfort and end up slipping on the canvas, I thought, okay, this is going to be a bad night. I mean, that canvas didn't look very sort of sturdy and stable anyway, but his feet were never totally under him before that or even after that. It was almost like he was always trying to just find his balance. And coming in against someone that was fighting in the southpaw stance was definitely not beneficial to him at this stage in his career. The knockdown that he did suffer, it was a bit, how can I put it? It was a bit unfortunate, that's what I will say. I don't believe the punch by itself would have got him off his feet, because he survived a lot worse in his younger days. And obviously, I know you're older, punch resistance, everything, but he's also a bigger guy now, just naturally. So absorbing a lot of those shots would be a lot easier for him. But I think just the fact that you could see in the replays and even in the live broadcast, he actually trips over Beltor's feet as the uppercut comes in, and he staggers back, but he gets blocked by sort of the foot and the part of his knee and ends up falling over. It's a scoring punch. It was a legit knockdown, but it's unfortunate just because obviously it was from a southpaw stance and legs just getting tangled up. The flurry of punches after that. Now, I don't know how I feel, because Holyfield's a grandparent. Obviously, he's got children as well. He took, from what I saw, 2 punches that actually landed and connected with the face. There was one that was a straight right, and then there was like an uppercut about 7 punches later. But the majority of them did get blocked on the gloves, elbows. He even had a couple that sort of went just sort of underneath the shoulder, sort of in the lateral areas here. They didn't look that hard. He looked fairly comfortable. He didn't look distressed. And I know the ref was very, very keen to just want to jump in and stop the fight. And I understand it, because, as I said, he's a grandparent. As someone who has got history of, you know, losing grandparents, you would appreciate the fact that someone is trying to save yours for, you know, for a later date. But then he's also a warrior who we know has been in a lot worse situations and could handle a lot worse than what was actually coming at him. As I said, from what I saw, there was maybe 2 punches that got through to the face. All the rest were kind of being blocked. Could Belfort have kept that barrage up for sort of the next 20 seconds and not sort of maybe gassed out? Because that's not really, you know, the MMA way. You get someone down, you normally take your breath, you take your breathers on the ground while you're looking for looking for arm bars, looking for chokes, looking for submissions, or even just looking to maintain sort of dominant position on top. So could he have sustained it? I don't know. The stoppage itself, as I said, can I call it a bad stoppage? Under the circumstances, I can't, because as I said, 58 turning 59, like, he is an old man. He shouldn't have been in there in the first place. That's the first thing I will say. That I do agree, he should have never been in that ring against someone like that. The exhibition thing with sort of Tyson, or even like Riddick Bowe, or those kind of guys, maybe, you know, I can maybe see that one. But yeah, generally speaking, a lot of them I don't really feel they should be doing, especially not without head guards and bigger gloves and whatnot. But I'm not going to call it a bad stoppage. But would I have stopped it at that time? No. And that's not because I'm baying for blood, or, you know, I just want to see someone get knocked out. I just believe that he was okay enough to regain composure and get himself back into that fight if he really wanted to. He obviously complained profusely afterwards. He did an interview with 50 Cent and what's the other guy, Todd Grisham, and he was like, I was fine, like none of his shots really like hurt me. He was just like, he was big, he was strong, used his shoulder sort of, he did push me back a bit, but you know, I was fine. Like, he didn't take anything really hard, and he was just a bit he was upset that the referee stopped it when he did, which I can understand. But I think it's time for these Triller Fight Club fights to be over. The spectacle, the novelty's worn off now. There's not really any. The intrigue's gone. So before it was all about, oh, we'll wonder how this will look. I mean, Tyson and Jones, basically, they caught it at the sweet spot. And since then, like, nothing's really lived up to it. And it just looks like they're going to try and take more and more risks. And I don't know if that's the way we need to be, I don't know if that's the way we need to be remembering some of these fighters, these legends, because guaranteed one of them will get hurt. Tyson Jones looked more sort of like a glorified body spot with a couple of headshots here and there, but you know, you had Jake Paul, Ben Askren, possibilities of injury. You can see it coming a mile away. This one, 58, 59-year-olds, like, is it really worth it? Now, Vita Belfort's talking about $30 million fight with Jake Paul afterwards, winner take all. I can't see Jake Paul taking that, but again, it's just a case where someone somewhere is going to get hurt. Because Vita even said in his interview, yo, if they start letting me clinch these guys or grab these guys, it's over. So you can already see that they're going to come up with some kind of hybrid rules at some point, and then that's not boxing, and it's not even MMA. It's literally just it's gonna almost be like the bare knuckle stuff, and I don't know if any of us really want that in this setting. So I hope it's over, to be honest. But they're gonna do whatever they do, and if the pay-per-views, you know, if people like me, you know, carry on buying it, then who knows. But I will state this was the only one I've purchased, and it was just due to, it was more to the David Haye thing, and I wanted to have some stuff to talk about. I was just intrigued on that one particular fight. But anyway, that's the end of my thoughts for this weekend. As I said, if you could please like and subscribe, share the vid with a friend, share it with an enemy, share it with someone even that's not interested. I'd appreciate it. I'm not sure when the next one will be. It's been a very emotional couple of days. Those of you who know me will know what I'm talking about. But we move, we continue, we grow, we elevate. So until the next time, hardcore casual.